Hello and welcome. I'm so excited today. We're getting into a very informative interview. I have Serafine Lilien here, who is from Ergo Arts and a fantastic ergonomist. My apologies. So I'm very excited. We're talking all things, habits, ergonomics essentially, and what employers can do to really make sure that their employees are properly safe and secure in the day-to-day working environments that they exist in, whether that's at home or in the office. So Serafine, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to kind of dive into all of this information.
Me too.
Perfect. Would you like to give a little bit of your background, introduce yourself a little bit further, and then I have some questions that I know many people would be dying to hear the answers to.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Kendra. I appreciate the introduction. Yeah, so my name is Serafine Lilien, and I have been a professional ergonomist for about 20 years now, and I've done about 18 to 20,000 ergonomic evaluations. So I've helped lots of people work more safely at their offices, in manufacturing areas, and in other areas. Ergonomics is about the study of safe work, so that applies in any industry, in any environment.
Awesome, thank you. So you just touched on a point that I really wanted to bring up for people who aren't necessarily familiar with the study of ergonomics. What does that constitute? You said it involves safe work, but where do those boundaries kind of exist when you specify safe work?
Yeah, so like, for example, when I was working at Boeing, there was an incident reporting system. So if someone had a musculoskeletal issue on the manufacturing floor, I would be called in to find out what was that person doing, pulling, stressing, straining, what part of the body, and how can we alleviate that in the future by changing process, changing behavior, maybe purchasing equipment, maybe, different protocol, like what can we do, procedure-wise to eliminate that sort of risk so that employee can then work in a healthy, safe environment.
Wow, amazing. Because if it happened to one person, it's bound to happen to someone else down the road, right? So it's great you go in and rectify that issue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the other thing I just wanted to say is, a lot of companies use ergonomics as a reactionary tool. I try to get people to use it as a preventative tool. I always tell people, like, do you brush your teeth after you get a cavity, or do you brush your teeth to prevent cavities? So you want to think about getting an ergonomic evaluation as a preventative act so that you can keep your body physically healthy at work. So when you go home, you can enjoy your off time and not being like, oh God, I can't do the gardening, or I don't want to go kayaking this weekend because my neck hurts or whatever. So, having those physical, aches and pains can really, reduce our enjoyment when we're not working. Yeah.
Absolutely. So from the individual standpoint, and then when you think about it from the employer standpoint, that's a lot of output that they're putting in terms of benefits, losing employees, wonderful employees to workplace injuries, right? And things that could have been prevented. So I love that you take the proactive approach. And I know that there are organizations that are definitely aiming to do that and trying to do that, but might not be going about it the right way. We see all the hype of buy this new chair, buy this keyboard. But what common mistakes do you see a lot of companies making when it comes to being ergonomically friendly? I'm not sure if that's really the term that we use, but what can they do to mitigate these mistakes that most companies are making right now?
Yeah, so a lot of times companies, well, okay, there's different scenarios. So I don't really know all the scenarios out there. I'll give you one scenario, for example. So companies will tell me like, oh, we don't need you. We've got these great sit-stand desks and we've got these ergo chairs. And I'm like, okay, great. Do your employees know how to use that equipment? Right? So buying the equipment is one thing. Training your employees on how to use the equipment is like 50%. Because seriously, if someone could put a keyboard on top of their head and start typing like this, they would actually do it. So people actually have to be taught how to use this equipment. I go in and, again, I don't know how many, chair fittings I've done in my career. The number is too great to even count. And I would say maybe in my sociological study, 2 to 5% of the people actually know how the adjustments of their chair works. Now,
Wow.
that's ridiculous, right? I mean, it should be 90% or at least 80% of people should know how their chair works, right? I mean, granted, you do not need a PhD to know how to use your chair, right?
It seems relatively simple, but I was the victim of this recently in a different context. I went to a spin class and I'd been positioning my bike all wrong. So I was pulling my knee and it started to really wear on my IT band, and I had so much pain and I thought spin just isn't for me. And then one day I had my bike adjusted properly to fit my body, thought I was doing it right. And since then it's been a dream. So I can attest to the fact that although it seems simple, it's really not. And unless you have someone who knows what they're doing and can measure you and guide you appropriately, the equipment's essentially useless.
Yeah, exactly. I did a ergonomic assessment recently on a woman that was retired who was a physical therapist. Physical therapists know a lot about bodies and how things work exactly, but she was having terrible problems working in front of her computer, and she sent me an email like a couple of days after. She's like, "Oh my God, the changes that you made, amazing! Like my back pain is gone, and it's like I have like 80% less pain because me coming in as an outsider, I get an outside perspective of what you look like when you're working. People are not conscious of what they're doing when they're working. You see people working and they have their head and neck forward and they're like this, and they're like, yeah, I'm fine. Nothing's wrong here. But yeah, there's, your head weighs about 12 pounds. When your head is over your shoulder, it weighs 12 pounds. When your head is 15 degrees forward, you've just doubled the weight of your head on all these muscles back here, right? If your head is 60 degrees forward, your head weighs 60 pounds. So all those poor muscles back there have to work really, really hard to support this bowling ball head out in space.
Yeah, my goodness. As you're saying that, I'm thinking I'm trying to be, aware of what my own body's doing. And it's not until someone kind of gives you the flick in the forehead to say, hey, shoulders back, which is wild because, we think that we're very aware of our bodies, but like you said, having a third party come in and assess that is incredibly helpful. And so, just when you said even if you put your head forward a little bit, right, it multiplies the weight. Now, I can imagine that in the work environment, we have the resources and the capacities to set our desk up certain ways, and employers are working on that. But through COVID, people have been working from home, which doesn't necessarily provide the best working environment. So for you, how do you see that working from home and the desk setup that we have kind of created through this transition? How is that impacting employees, their productivity, but basically their overall well-being?
Yeah, okay, so I have a study I'm going to just read from for a second. It's from Chubb, and it just says 2 in 5 workers reported new pain or increased pain in their shoulders, back, or wrists from working from home during the pandemic.
Wow.
2 in 5 workers. That is a huge number of people that have new aches and pains in their shoulders, back, or wrists. And a lot of it is caused from, I don't know if you could tell, you're actually really good. I could tell right away if somebody's working off their laptop because you could see the inside of their nostrils, because the monitor is too low. I mean, I remember right when the pandemic hit, our governor did a live presentation, and I could see the inside of her nostrils. And I emailed the coordinator. I'm like, someone please raise this woman's laptop. Like, no one responded to me. But, I mean, anyway, well, all right, we won't get into that.
Optics
aside. All aside, what's happening when you're doing that is, again, you have your head and neck really forward when you're just working off your laptop. So just working off your laptop really is very challenging for people, for their head and neck, and for their arms as well, because then they have to type higher, kitchen tables, working off kitchen. Yeah, it's really a mess. But I have to tell you, I have YouTube and I can give it to your audience. they can look at. I did a whole series, about 8 or 9 videos right in the beginning of the pandemic, about how can you set your kitchen chair to help you to work in a neutral position. Or if you only have a chair that has height adjustment, how can you adjust that to work in a neutral position? And you know, basically not buying new equipment, but using things that you have in your home, like towels and maybe some cushions, to amend furniture that you already have to help you work in neutral. So it's really not necessarily always having to buy a new product to work ergonomically. It's about how do you have your body to work in a neutral position, and what can we do to change that. Now, the big thing for me is chairs.
Mhm.
Companies will go out and buy these quote unquote ergonomic chairs. You know, any chair that says it's ergonomic, I mean, that it's really using the word incorrectly. Ergonomics, again, is a science of safe work, and it's based on physicality. It's based on something called anthropometrics, which is basically measuring the body and getting the body to fit into that work environment, instead of you working in an environment and having to adjust your body to that environment. It's the opposite. It's how do we get that environment to fit your body? I know it's a whole different head spin, right? Exactly. But that's really what it's about. And so there's a lot of chairs out there that use the word ergonomic, but again, ergonomics is individual to the person. So yeah, this chair may be ergonomic for a percentage of the population, but it may not work for the entire population.
Is
I can go on, but I think that might be enough for now.
Well, you and I have had full sessions talking about chairs, so I know that you have so much knowledge to share. And if you wouldn't mind sharing, you know, those tips that you put on YouTube as well, I think the audience would really benefit from that, especially, you know, the employers that are sitting there biting their nails thinking, oh no, do I have to put out so much money to buy all this new equipment? But really, all they have to do is have you come in. And I know you do virtual assessments as well, right? So you don't even have to come in physically, although preferred. But if somebody is working from home, you can assess their environment and how they're sitting and say, hey, here's what we can do with what you're already working with, which is a benefit across the board for employees and employers alike. So with that being said, what are the other ways that you come in, aside from, you know, providing awesome YouTube videos and tutorials for people, but on a more individualized level, how do you come in and help both companies prepare their employees, and also employees or people that are just looking to, you know, better their bodies and their posture and their work environment for themselves?
Yeah, so a couple things that I do live and virtual individual assessments and training classes. So a virtual ergonomic assessment is pretty similar, because what I do is I have people log into another device, so the device can move around and I can see what the environment looks like. And as long as I can see what the environment looks like, then I can see what the problems are pretty much immediately. And then we go through, you know, I start with the chair, and then we go through that, making sure the chair is set up properly, then making sure the keyboard and the mouse area is set up properly, and then the monitor height is set up properly, and anything else that you use during your workday. And, you know, so there are some things that I see out there, you know, that people, so this is what I don't want. I don't want people to buy equipment and then call me. I want people to call me first. And if they need to buy something, I can recommend what they need to buy, because there's so many, unfortunately, products out there that will not benefit anybody. And so I don't want people to be wasting their money on furniture. You know, a lot of times I'll do an ergonomic assessment on someone. I did one recently on this woman, and she went to Relax the Back store and bought this really expensive chair for herself. And I wound up putting towels on that chair to get it to work for her, because it wasn't putting her body in a neutral position for her. So wow, if she would have had this assessment before she went out and spent this money on a chair, she could have gotten a chair that really worked for her, and that she didn't have to have towels on her chair.
Right.
And it's like, what do? You just bought the chair. You can't really return it. Do you buy another chair? I mean, again, it's a big investment to buy a chair.
Yeah.
So again, it's better to reach out first to do that. And then, you know, for companies, I can do online training. So I have training set up, you know, depending on what your equipment is. Like if you have ergonomic chairs, we can gear the presentation towards, you know, the chairs that you have. Like tell me what the chairs are so I know what they are. I know how they adjust. I could teach your entire, you know, employee population on how the chair works for them. It works in general, and then how it works to fit their body. So that's two things. How does the chair work, and how do you get it to fit you in a neutral position? So those are two separate things, and the employee needs to understand both parts. So again, I can gear the training depending on what equipment, you know, the employer has. Like one employee said, well, some of the people have sit-stand desks, so we did a separate, you know, presentation for those that had sit-stand desks, and I taught them how to adjust them for sitting and for standing. And then for those that didn't, we did a different presentation for that. So it could be really geared basically towards what the population is. So again, live and virtual classes I can do, and live and virtual ergonomic evaluations I can do as well. Yeah. And I can also, you know, advise companies on products that they want to buy as well. So again, reach out to me before you make a big purchase of furniture, you know, facility managers, you know, before you go out and buy that equipment that some salesperson tells you to buy, reach out to me and I can tell you if that chair is going to actually work for your employee population.
Right. That's incredibly helpful, especially as people are either going back into the workplace or there's a hybrid environment happening. It's so important that they understand, because I was looking into the cost of some ergonomic chairs years ago, and I remember thinking, this much for a chair? That's wild. But if it helps and it works, as long as you know how to use it, then it's a worthwhile investment, because the amount you're spending down the road on physical therapy or physiotherapy and, you know, employee benefits and just making sure you're getting your body back to where it should be far outweighs the cost of, you know, the training and the importance of being proactive with that.
Yeah, I mean, let's say a chair costs $700. That's $2 a day. Don't do Starbucks for a year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, at yeah, 4 or 5 physiotherapy sessions and you've already evened out there. So
yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, prevention is really very cost effective. Very cost effective. Yeah.
And not just in the dollars and cents, but about people feeling good and feeling their best and coming in, not being achy, not being stiff, not having to move around. I know we've had conversations about the importance of getting up and moving your body throughout the day. But when it becomes a distraction just to alleviate pain, then there's that whole productivity piece that also comes into play. So
exactly. Yeah.
All around, just a multitude of benefits. And so with this, how can people reach out to you? How can they find you? Where do they go? We'll obviously provide all that information, but if you could fill us in, where can we get it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, people can go to my website. It's ErgoArts, ErgoArts, and it's .net. So you can just find me via the website. You can email me, Serafine, SERAFINE @ergoarts.net. And then my YouTube page happens to be ErgoArts. Try to keep it a little simple here for people. So yeah, if you just type in ErgoArts, you should be able to find me, I think.
Okay, perfect. Well, Serafine, if there's anything else you'd like to share with the audience, otherwise I think, you know, we'll have to do a part 2 and follow up to this, because there is so much information. We could do a session on chairs alone, but I would love for people to reach out to you and you know, discuss this with you directly, because there's so much that they can benefit from. And I know you've helped me even just be conscious and cognizant of how my body is in the neutral position and where the screen should be in the conversations that we've had. So I just want to thank you for sharing all this knowledge with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. I just want to say one other thing, and that is about hybrid work areas. So again, you know, this is something else that people can reach out to me for as well. If you're deciding to go into a hybrid work model, depending on what you're doing, are you going to have shared offices or shared cubicles? You know, again, if you're going to do anything that's shared, you have to make sure that the equipment that you get is adjustable. So please reach out to me if you are planning to do any kind of hybrid work office, especially now. So have me come in now in the planning stage and not after it's already said and done. But it's really good to have somebody, you know, an ergonomic professional on the team as you're making those decisions.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And I think there are a lot of people that are going through that stage right now. So again, I encourage you all listening and tuning into this to reach out to Serafine. As you saw, a ton of information, and it's ergoarts.net again to get in touch with you. So thank you so much for your time and expertise today. And I look forward to working with you more closely moving forward as well.
Well, I look forward to working with you, Kendra. This has been awesome. I really appreciate you offering me this interview. This has been really fun. Thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. We will talk soon. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either of us.